We head out to California now, the Reagan National Defense Forum, Simi Valley, California. Fox National Security correspondent Jennifer Griffin there with us. Jen, good to see you as always. You know, it's interesting when this forum happens, you've got impeachment and everything else going on in Washington, but at the same time, you've had a shooting at Pearl Harbor. We've obviously now had the shooting down in Pensacola. How much is the question of the Saudi military training, what happened in Pensacola, overshadowing the larger conversation out there?
Well, Leland, I just had a panel with the four heads of the Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines, and I asked them that very question because we started with the news. We are here to talk about the national defense strategy and shifting the focus from the Middle East to the fight against China and Russia in the future and future technologies that are going to be needed. But this shooting has been leading many of the discussions, and the issue of whether the U.S. can afford to continue training aviation officers from other foreign countries. There are about 5,000 training in the U.S., foreign nationals training in the U.S. right now. There were 852 Saudi nationals training, many of them in this aviation program. And this shooter down at Pensacola, he has been here for the past 3 years. And so there are real questions about the security on bases as well as the vetting, the extreme vetting that needs to take place for these foreign nationals who are training with the U.S. military, given this new insider threat. The new defense budget, $738 billion, has more money for foreign national training. I asked the members of the Joint Chiefs whether it would be a problem if they cut off that program. And they said, in essence, Saudi Arabia buys a lot of the U.S. military equipment. They buy our warplanes, and you have to train their pilots. So they would be hurt in terms of being able to go to war together. You saw in the Gulf War, you needed to fly with allies. If these pilots are not trained in the U.S., but clearly something went wrong. If you look behind me, the Secretary of the Air Force and the Air Force Chief have just cut the ribbon of this new exhibit here at the Reagan National Library, at the Reagan Library, and it's an F-117 jet, the first stealth jet fighter of its time. It's no longer operational, but you'll remember when it did come in, this put America way ahead of its competitors, having that stealth technology. Now those competitors are catching up. That's what we're discussing here at the forum, and we're looking at new technologies that are going to be the next generation, in the next generation fight. Fighting in space, fighting in cyber. How does that work? That's what I asked the chiefs about just moments ago.
Interesting. All right, we're getting back to the issue in terms of the shooting and training the Saudis, et cetera. If the Saudis don't buy U.S. weapons, conceivably they'd buy them from Russia or China, the two groups that you talked about. Has there been any defense of the Saudis in the larger sense by the secretaries and by the Joint Chiefs? They have close relationships with their top military brass, this long-standing U.S. relationship. Is there a defense of them of saying, hey, out of 852 Saudis and thousands of others that we have trained, you might end up with one that gets radicalized, and that sort of is the unfortunate cost of doing business if we're going to have allies in the Middle East?
I would say that we have not heard any criticism of Saudi Arabia from any of the defense chiefs who are here, from Mark Esper, the defense secretary, and also from the White House. If you've noticed the tweets that have come out, they have been very neutral. No criticism of the Saudi royal family or the king, who did reach out right away and spoke to the president. The president did not speak to the crown prince, Mohammed bin Salman. The relationship has been tense, and it has been there have been issues since the killing of the journalist Jamal Khashoggi by the Saudis in Turkey a little over a year ago. But the U.S. military also is considering sending more troops to Saudi Arabia in defense against the Iranian threat. So the administration, as well as the military, understands that they still need Saudi Arabia in the Middle East, especially with a rising Iranian threat. Leland?
Jennifer, it's Kristen. You are part of the Fox contingent that's out there. You've got Brett Baer, Chris Wallace, you, of course, moderating a panel. I'm curious, can you just help our viewers understand sort of the range of topics that you all are covering during the forum this weekend?
Well, again, this is looking at the National Defense Strategy, which is really a shift from fighting terrorism for many years to looking at how is the U.S. military going to compete against China and Russia as those competitors come up with technologies that could potentially blind the U.S. in space, for instance. So there's a lot of talk about space technology. There's a lot of talk about what the service chiefs are going to need in the next budget in order to come up with the next generation of fighting tools. Again, if you look behind me, the F-117, that was a state-of-the-art stealth fighter jet back in the day, but it was retired in 2008 to make way for other platforms. This is about looking ahead, but what is notable about the Pensacola shooting, the Hawaii Pearl Harbor shooting, as well as news that the U.S. is considering sending more troops to the Middle East, is that as much as each president continues to try and shift the focus to China and Russia, they keep getting sucked back into the Middle East and having to face real issues of protecting the forces and strain on the forces. If you look at the Pearl Harbor situation, that strain on the force is also a part of having this very large military being deployed in 140 countries around the world.